Thank you, Wikist. I gotta share my screen. All right. GM, everybody. Welcome to our second Developer DAO Fundraising Operators Workshop. GM, everybody. Welcome to our second. Sorry. Yeah. Fix the audio. All right. Welcome to our second Fundraising Operators Workshop. So glad to have you here with us today. Today we're going to be talking about how to write a compelling narrative for your project. So just a little background, Victor and I are Developer DAO's fundraising operators. Our job is to help Developer DAO members raise money for your projects. We love doing this. There's so much interest in the space for bringing grant funding to amazing developers like the members that we have in Developer DAO. So it's such a rewarding job that we have, matching founders and project leads with funders who want to help build their ecosystems and help build Web3. So we're sort of matchmakers in that regard. This is part of a workshop series that we're running that's going to happen every Wednesday at 3 p.m. UTC. More coming up. Present your path to sustainability, be next week. Presenting a budget, be the week after that. And then on December 7th, we'll be practicing elevator pitches. I just realized I could have better lighting here. Better experience for everybody. Just a sec. Oh, that's too bright. All right. This happened. Okay. We also have office hours every Monday and Friday at 2 p.m. UTC in the Developer DAO Discord, Voice Channel 1. And we also have an async channel, the Fundraising Operators Discord channel in the Developer DAO Discord, where you can always pop in, ask us questions, share links, let us know what you're working on. We really want to help Developer DAO members get grant funding for your projects. We would love it if you ask questions also throughout this workshop. So please don't be shy. I'm monitoring the YouTube chat on my other screen here. So any questions that you have, please drop them in the chat. We also have a async fundraising guide. It's a wiki in Notion that you can access for all things related to grant funding. This presentation is going to be recorded and the slide deck will be shared. Actually, it's already been shared. So you don't need to worry about taking notes. We're recording this and we'll share the slides so you can access all these hyperlinks on your own time. Here's just a little visual of the fundraising guide. You can always access this. It's got a pretty robust FAQ section. We really tried to think of everything that someone would need when trying to raise grant funding. It's all there. All right, so with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's dive into today's workshop. Our objective for today is to get more comfortable with the three components of a grant application that make it into a compelling narrative. So we want to start our grant applications with just a clear, concise, compelling narrative about what this application, what this project is all about. Throughout this workshop, again, please don't hesitate to ask questions. This one is going to be more interactive than the last one. The last one, I presented a ton of slides, a lot of content. Today, we have 2 Developer DAO members here. We'll be workshopping a few proposals. We know a lot of folks in our audience are also working on grant applications. And so please don't hesitate to chime in, ask questions about your own experience. We'll start out before getting into workshopping the narratives of these 2 projects that we will be looking at today. Let's just do a quick recap from last week's presentation. First key point that we need to remember here is that grants fundraising is both an art and a science. It's an art in that skill is required to communicate your project in an attractive way to funders. So like having artful communication skills is pretty key. There's also a science here. Like we're presenting a formula that will increase your odds of success. So when you're able to practice the art and also adopt this particular formula, greatly increase your chances of success at obtaining grant funding for your project. We're also going to recap the functions of a successful grant application. So number one, you need to convince the funder that you can deliver the desired outcomes for this project. And number two, you need to comfort them that you won't lose or waste their money. These things need to be demonstrated. You will exude this convincing and this comforting through your writing, not explicitly stating, I won't lose your money or we will deliver. You have to communicate these things in an artful way that makes the funder feel convinced and comforted. And we'll be practicing some of this today. Continuing the brief recap, a bit more about the functions. So what does a grant application need to do to be successful? Number one, it needs to communicate that your values are aligned. The project and the funder, our values are aligned. We see the same challenge or opportunity that the funder sees. We know what to do. You can count on us to deliver. We'll be good stewards of your resources. So without explicitly saying these things, this is what your grant application needs to communicate to the funder. You need to demonstrate these things, not just state them. All right, I see some activity in the chat. Let me see what's going on. Oh, yes, hits hard in the wake of all the FTX drama, for sure. I think you might be, Hamza, you might be picking up on the need to even be more convincing and more comforting now, given the trust that was broken with FTX and just kind of like the cloud that's hanging over Web3 right now and concerns that funders probably have about their treasuries. And so, yes, it becomes even more important. Grant money will probably be flowing less so than it was, certainly a year ago, but maybe even less so than a month ago. So yeah, we'll combine the art and the science, and there's still a lot of grant funding out there. So it's not a lost cause. There's tons of opportunities. It's just probably they're just gonna be taking a closer look at grant applications, and they need to be more certain before they'll fund projects. Continuing with a quick recap here, the standard components of a grant application. These are the things that we recommend including, or at least having this content on hand to be able to put into a grant application. So a problem statement, solution statement, team statement, how your solution works, some success metrics, how we know if we've been successful, the budget. Sometimes you'll have other supporters, and it will be part of the artfulness to include mention of those other supporters. You also might have a background or a project history, and you might have legal and financial information that can be included as well. These last three are, just ways to validate what you're doing. But if you're just getting started, if this would be your first grant proposal, your first funding for your project, then you're not going to have 7, 8, or 9. The hook of a grant application, how you hook the funder's interest, how you present a compelling narrative to launch your grant proposal, is those first 3 things. And that's what we're going to be focused on today. The formula for introductions that hook funders are those first 3 features of a grant application. Number 1, we see the problem that you see, the problem statement. Number 2, here's a viable solution to this problem, solution statement. And number 3, we're the right team to solve the problem. That's the team statement. So depending on the format or the structure of your application or proposal, this might be in the introduction, it might be an executive summary, it might be the first slides in the deck, it might be how you launch your video proposal. But we recommend that you follow this formula and like really get good at presenting that compelling narrative to every grant program that you're applying to. All right, let me check the chat. What types of projects have the best chance of securing funding at this time? DeFi, NFT, DAO. Thanks for the question, John. Over the last 3 weeks, Wickes and I have talked to a couple dozen funders, and honestly, all 3 of those things are still being funded. We haven't talked to anybody who's said that they were changing their strategy because of what's happening right now. They might have less money to disperse because of what's happening in the industry right now, but still focused on their strategy. A lot of ecosystem support programs, a lot of infrastructure building programs, educational programs, education for users and for devs. And then, in terms of like the ecosystem support programs, funders definitely want to see DeFi, NFTs, and DAOs being built and applying for funding. So those are still really popular types of projects that can get grant funding right now. Thanks for your question. Going back briefly here. This is the focus of today's workshop, this formula for introductions to hook funders. This is what we're going to be workshopping with Kemster from Perks and also Milo from Eden. Looking forward to it. Wrapping up the recap here, high level, just this is the feature. The first feature of a good grant application is presenting the problem statement. The function of the problem statement is to show that you share the funder's mission, that you see the same problem that they see. So, a few tips on how to do this well, like if they've outlined the problem as they see it on their website, use their language to diagnose the problem. Also mirror their use of storytelling or data. If their website is heavy on storytelling, then clearly, that's the kinds of narratives that they're attracted to. And so you should try to work in some storytelling as well. Same with data. This seems like a very data-focused grant program. Then including some data in how you articulate the problem that you're looking to solve is a winning strategy. And you want to be concise. Use as little space as possible. Find this common ground with the funder and then get on with it. This might just be a sentence or two. The solution statement. The purpose of the solution statement is to show that you know what can solve the problem that you just diagnosed. And so some features of this, you want to be objective. For example, to say this method reduces spam bots on Twitter is a better solution statement than our method reduces spam bots on Twitter. You want to keep it at a high level. Like this is just your intro. This is basically like an elevator pitch, the problem statement, solution statement, team statement. So keep it at a high level and be concise. Further on in the grant application, you want to go into a lot more detail, but not at the beginning. And the third key component of crafting this narrative for your grant application is the team statement. The purpose of the team statement is to show that you have the right team to get stuff done. So, a great team statement will present confidence. Again, mirroring. So if applicable, using language from the funder's website or materials to express that you have the talent that they need to pull this off. They might be looking for a particular type of founder or a particular type of software engineer. If you have that on your team, if they've stated that that's what they're most interested in, you have that on your team, you definitely want to mirror the language that they're using to let them know that you've got the talent that they're looking for. Just a quick side note, a lot of the funders that we're talking to emphasize how they're interested in funding people as much or even maybe more so than the projects itself. So they might encounter someone through a grant application and they don't really like the project idea that much, but they love the person or some team members that are presenting this, and they're making note of that, and they might come back to you with a different opportunity for a different project or a conversation to get involved with their program or their protocol or their ecosystem in another way. So knowing the type of talent that the funder needs, and if you have that on your team, even if you don't get funding for this particular project, it can lead to great outcomes for what you're trying to do. And just like the other two, you want to be concise. Use as little space as possible to flex your team, and then get on with it. Check in the chat. So Kay says, what if you never did something like what you're proposing before? I think that's pretty common, especially like with early stage grant applications in Web3. I mean, so much of what we're doing, like we're inventing, it doesn't exist in the world. And, you just have an idea to kind of piece some things together and try to create something that's cool and new. And so I think that's very acceptable. Probably less, this is probably where there's a big difference between like the meat space, kind of like philanthropic grant funding world, where, to get a grant, you need to demonstrate traction and you need to be able to check a lot of boxes. But in Web3, people seem to be more interested in funding ideas, which is super cool. All right, just checking the comments. Glad you guys are here. Glad to see that the chat is active. This is fun. Okay, so almost without further ado, I think this is the last slide before we get into actual workshopping, and I can invite Kemp into the room. Create a master grant proposal template. Create a Google Doc, list out these 9 components, and just like start workshopping the language. Drop a problem statement in, solution statement, team statement, the other things, and then whenever you're applying for a grant, you just copy paste that content into a grant application. You have to tailor it every time. You have to customize it every single time. But having a master grant application will make it much easier for you. And you'll iterate. This will evolve. This is a great place just to have content. Makes it easier for you, but makes it easier for you to apply to every subsequent grant program. But also, I think it helps you clarify really like what your core message is, to have it, because you might apply to 15 or 20 grants, and each time you talk about the problem, the solution, the team, it might drift a little bit. You might, kind of lose track of like what is the core key messaging. But if you have this foundational document to always go back to, then you can be revising and workshopping and iterating how you talk about your project and your team in a compelling way. And this is a real asset for any project. So highly recommend adopting this approach. All right, now the recap's out of the way. Let's bring Kempster up on stage. We can start workshopping the perks grant application.
Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Kemp. Did I get your name right? Are there 4 R's or?
Yeah, there are.
There are. Okay, cool, nice.
I like to make it easy for people.
And also gotta give a shout out to Victor, to Wickest, who's running the technology behind the scenes here. Everything is working so well, and we got Kemp into the room seamlessly. So thanks so much, Victor. You're killing it. All right, so let's start out. We're looking at the perks partner brief, and this is actually, Kemp, why don't you talk about it? What is this? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so this is a document that we send to partners, either like pre or post speaking to them, and it's basically kind of like an elevator pitch to that user. So this specifically isn't targeted at grant funders, but it's kind of achieving the same thing. So the person that's reading this is a partner that might want to partner with Perks to list benefit on the platform. And then this is kind of like an elevator pitch, so they can have something tangible to look at, either pre or post we've spoken to them about a partnership.
Right on. Cool. And even though you weren't using this as a master grant application template, it kind of does fit that function pretty well. Like, you've got the problem, the opportunity, how do we make this happen, which I kind of interpret as a team statement. And then you get into more detail about the project itself. So I think this is a well-organized template for a master grant. And yeah, those first three things, the hook, what I'm calling the narrative for your grant application, it's right there. So I think you can repurpose what you've got here as a master grant application too.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically here, just scroll down a little bit in that Notion page, from the table of contents. Here's the problem, the opportunity. How do we make this happen? There's some really good stuff here. Kemp, you're killing it in terms of you've identified problem. You've framed the solution in an objective way. I don't see perks mentioned until the third section, which is exactly what I want to see. It's written concisely. It's like very direct and to the point. It's written at a high level. You're not getting into the weeds and kind of getting us too much detail too early on where our eyes might glaze over. We're really hitting the high points here, which is awesome. Like I said, perks isn't mentioned until the third section. So yeah, really nice job with this.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Of course, there's some areas for improvement, and which is great because this is a workshop. It'd be boring if I was just like, "Nice job, dude, you get an A." nothing to do. So for a grant, you want to pick one problem and focus on it. This is cool how you've outlined the problem for the protocol, for DAOs within that ecosystem, and then also for contributors within that DAO. But grant programs are probably going to be focused on one of these levels. Or the grant program might have different strands, but they're either trying to build their ecosystem, or they're trying to support DAO's development, or they're trying to attract and retain users. It's probably going to confuse things if you wrote a grant application where you presented all three problems.
So would the suggestion be to depending on where this is going and who's reading it, focus on the one that applies to them most that you think?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where the mirroring comes in. So looking at the grant fund, looking at their website, hopefully they've talked about the problem that they're trying to address, and just borrowing their language, they've defined it for you. And so you just have to repeat it back to them if what you're doing is applicable. I thought a little bit of storytelling might paint a clearer picture. Really, there's kind of a tension between storytelling and needing to be concise and having this be just a very direct elevator pitch. But I'm sure from your experience working in Developer DAO and in other DAOs, you can speak to these problems, and you can probably even potentially cite compelling data about attrition of users, about stories about DAOs that have struggled in this regard, or protocols that haven't gotten traction because of these things. So if you can cite specific examples, or if there's good valid data that you can use, that can really help kind of turn up the problem. I guess kind of increase the pain factor of the problem.
Yeah, the idea came from that experience, right? We had the idea for perks. We had lots of people wanting to get basically distribution into developer DAO members to get people using their blockchain, using their product and service. So like there's a clear story there as well, but like we're definitely not telling it at the moment. So yeah, I can see us improving that quite a lot because there is actually like a genuine compelling story as well behind it. So yeah.
The key is to like just find the right amount of storytelling. Like if you can do it in like a couple sentences, that's best. Like in a written format, that's best. If you're talking to someone, and you can hook them into your story, then you can keep going. But yeah, the point of this intro hook, like this narrative, is like to just hook the funder and make them want to read the rest of your proposal. So you don't want to have too much detail. And the third part, I think it could be better presenting either you or the team at a high level. So like what you just said, this came out of your experience in Developer DAO. Developer DAO is a well-known brand in Web3, saying like this was recognized by like the key or core operators of one of the best known DAOs in the space. That is like so much validation, and like the convincing and the comforting that we need to make the funder feel can be accomplished like just with one sentence like that.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. All right. Before we move on, checking the chat. Martin, personalized grant proposals. Yeah, every time, every single grant proposal that you submit needs to be personalized to the funder of the program that you're applying to. And Wickus Victor, should projects record video pitches about their projects to stand out? If they're asking for it, yes. And if there's an opportunity in the application to like upload additional media, then yeah, potentially. Like if you have this hook, if you have this narrative and you feel really good about it, you're probably already writing it into the application, but you could also express it on a video, and it gives kind of a personalized touch, which might elevate your application and might kind of distance you from the competition to have that personalized touch. But if they're not asking for it, it's not necessary.
On the point that you said before, Chuck, about like things coming out of Developer DAO and having that like story and brand association, it's definitely been something that has made opening doors with perks and getting interest a lot easier. Like, do you see that as like a lever that folks in the DAO that are involved in the DAO, that are members of the DAO, that are building on the DAO can like pull on in order to help their project get elevated and get a better chance of getting support for grants, and it so should intentionally kind of lean into that and work with the community and build it into grant applications and so on.
Yes. So much. I mean, Victor and I have had a couple dozen conversations with funders in the last month, and they're like thanking us for coming to them. We're coming to them to like, because we're trying to get money for Developer DAO members. Like we need something from them, and they're thanking us because they're excited about Developer DAO. Developer DAO has an awesome reputation. Great vibes, great brand, putting out great content. There's Developer DAO members in almost every single important company, protocol, product in the space. Like everybody knows somebody who's been a member of, or is a member of Developer DAO. Everybody's seen IRL, like Vibes IRL events, been invited to them. So yeah, this is an incredible network that we're a part of. And I think that projects, can use. I think it's appropriate for projects to use the Developer DAO name. Like we're Developer DAO members. I think it's validation. It brings some of that comfort and some of the convincing that this application needs to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
About the funders, like it's almost like they've been sitting there waiting for us to come to them, and you guys have made it happen. So that's cool to know that we're getting that kind of feedback, and like hopefully folks can like realize that as an opportunity as well to kind of like further what they're doing.
Yeah, even we've had a couple conversations with grant programs that only accept whitelisted applications. Like you have to have some sort of association or membership to be able to apply. I'll just say like Orange DAO is one. That's the DAO for Y Combinator alums. And they told us like, sorry, DD members can't apply, but actually we want to change that. We'd like to be able to open up our grant program to DD members. So, let's keep in touch. Next cohort, we'll probably open it up. We'll probably whitelist Developer DAO as well. It's like just amazing. The reputation, the work that Kemp, you, and other founders and leaders of Developer DAO, just to kind of create this brand in the space and create the goodwill and the trustworthiness. Yeah, it's doing work for everybody else, all the other members in the DAO. It's pretty sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, this is going to turn into a Developer DAO love fest. We should keep Umair had a question. Is there a max limit for funding? Yeah, grant programs typically do have a max limit. It's a wide range though. Some will say 5,000, some will say 50,000. At least for a first grant, I would say 50,000 is probably the most you could expect from a Web3 grant program for your first grant. But then if you do a good job, if you deliver on the outcomes, if you communicate well, if you turn out to be a good person to work with, then there's definitely going to be opportunities for follow-on funding. But they need to manage their risk with the first grant that they make. So 50,000, I would say, is probably the upper limit of what you could expect for a first grant from a grant program. Yeah, Umair, there's a proposal template we can use. Yes, sir. We got resources. Wickus is sharing them in the chat. Thank you, Wickus. Okay, so that was the Perks Master Grant application. Now let's look at a singular example. You applied to Gitcoin Grants round 15. So let's look at this application. I will say, first up, before we look at what you wrote, Kemp, for this grant program, this one is a little hard to like define the problem exactly, because Gitcoin Grants is just like a Web3 wide grants program. It's very open-ended what sorts of projects can get funded. And so they're not looking, like Gitcoin is not looking for builders to solve a particular problem for them. They've created a platform for anybody to apply for funding. So it might not be obvious to start a Gitcoin grant proposal with a problem statement, because they have not told you what the problem is that they want you to solve. But you got to be disciplined, and you got to follow the hook narrative strategy, the problem solution team statement. Even if they're not asking for it in that format, you got to be disciplined and follow that format. So this is what Perks wrote for the Gitcoin grant proposal. Some room for improvement. So, lead with a problem statement.
It's like the reverse of the compliment from the last one. It's like the first word is Perks.
Yeah. And it's like, I can see how you'd walk into this trap, because Gitcoin there's thousands of grant proposals and you want people to like see your project, but they're just not going to be, I don't think people are going to be as compelled by, here's our project, here's what we do, because they haven't felt the pain yet. You haven't identified the problem that you're solving yet. So you've heard the maxim, like a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah.
Kind of like what happens with the Gitcoin grant program is everyone's presenting solutions, but it's not as compelling to see a solution if you don't feel the pain, if you don't feel that problem. So yeah, the feedback here is really just the trifecta: problem, solution, team. Even in an open-ended like thing like Gitcoin, you still gotta practice that 3-point stance here. So I thought maybe we could workshop a little bit. I took a stab at what I thought could be the problem statement. And this is actually a text box. I'm in presentation mode, so I'd have to go out of presentation mode, but this could be revised. Like Kemp, we could workshop this a little bit. We got the problem here in 4 sentences. You know, you could probably get away with just these first 2. But I personally think it's good to turn up the pain a little bit on the problem before you move on. And like, if any of these 3 things is emphasized the most, it would be the problem. Really make the reader feel it. And if they're in Web3, like, they're going to feel this one. I mean, if they're in any DAOs, they're going to feel this one.
Yeah.
So, you know, DAOs they're struggling to attract and retain talent. They are competing with traditional organizations, and they're really struggling to compete because they can't offer attractive benefits. Just because of the nature of work in DAOs, it's really hard for them. It's decentralized, it's remote, it's part-time, it's international. And so they're just at an inherent disadvantage. So if there was a platform that enabled them to provide perks and rewards to contributors, then the DAO operators would be able to offer these benefits packages without having to do it all themselves. There's a platform that they can just tap into. And then, okay, so we've outlined the problem, we made them feel it. We've presented a solution in an objective way. So we haven't mentioned perks yet. It's just like, we all feel this problem. Wouldn't it be great if this thing existed? Now there's a group in Developer DAO who recognize this problem and has built a solution for it.
Yeah, it's particularly applicable to Developer DAO and like social DAOs in general, I think. So we could maybe even like further define that and target it specific.
Yeah, being even more specific. That's like the specificity, I would say, really leverage the grant program that you're applying to for that specific language. So if you're applying to a program that, you know, it's an ecosystem support program and they're trying to stand up DAOs in their ecosystem, they need social DAOs, you know, they just need vibes in their L1 ecosystem, then, you know, mentioning something about, yeah, social DAOs and vibes and retention and, yeah, just using their language of what they're trying to accomplish. The specificity, I think, is best accomplished not by you trying to tap into your intuition, because you might be wrong. You might, like, part of the reason that we want this narrative, this intro, to be short and concise is that it reduces the probability of like making a mistake or saying something that loses the plot for the funder. So if you're going to be specific, I would say try to use their language to be specific. Keep it at a high level in this intro, unless you have language that you can borrow from them, from their website or from a PDF or something about the program. Do we lose you, Kent? I don't see your face anymore. Okay. Well, that was Kemp and Perks. Really, like, you guys are on the right track. You're doing great here. And we'll keep helping you. We'll start helping you apply to grant programs now. Milo, welcome. You're our next guinea pig.
GM. Hi, Zach. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Really glad you could join. Would you like to share a little bit about what Eden is before we dive into this exercise?
Absolutely. So Eden started a couple of months back, a little bit over half a year ago, and it is a product of DD. Majority of our team members come from DD, and we're aiming to solve the problem of talent coordination, which means connecting right people to the right opportunities at the right time. And we do that using AI, and Panda is working on that. Um, really organically for the past half year. Yeah, commented that his Wi-Fi died.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Cam.
But yeah, that's really
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the overview. And actually, Milo, your audio is a little glitchy.
sorry, I'm losing you.
Yeah, we're having audio issue. Are you hearing that feedback?
But now it's okay.
Maybe mute the YouTube stream.
It's muted. I just completely so let's try like that.
Okay. So hearing feedback. I think something needs to be muted on your side, Milo.
I'll be just muting myself when I don't speak, and let's see if that works.
Yeah. Cool. So Milo, you shared. Oh yeah, that's much better. Thank you. You shared your application to the Filecoin grants program. So let's look at what this Filecoin Dev Grants program is. Filecoin is looking to reward ongoing and existing contributions that add great value to the Filecoin ecosystem. So this is an ecosystem support program. They're looking to add value to the Filecoin ecosystem. We're starting to get some clues about the problem that they're looking to solve. They don't have enough contributors. There's not enough value being added to the Filecoin ecosystem. They want to inspire more contributors to solve open problems and engage with the Filecoin project. So again, we have this word contributors, contributions, contributors. They want more people in the Filecoin ecosystem to seed the creation of new products, businesses, and tools to increase the utility of Filecoin. So like this website is telling us exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for builders. They're looking for users, contributors within Filecoin. They think that just by offering grants that reward people for contributing to the Filecoin project, it's going to seed new products, businesses, and tools that increase the utility and therefore the value of Filecoin. They want to fund talented and eager teams that want to work with Filecoin to build a more robust, efficient, and decentralized web. This statement is, there's not really much substance here at the end, but the first three sentences here are just gold for how you frame your grant application. So I guess I already answered this question. I forgot that I had this prompt here. What problem does the grant program address? We need more contributors in the Filecoin ecosystem. How does Eden align itself with this problem? Milo, I'd like to kick that question to you.
Awesome. Can you hear me fine? Can you hear?
I can hear you. It sounds kind of like robotic a little bit.
Try muting ourselves. All right, I'll just try this way.
Oh, that's much better.
Definitely.
Perfect.
I'm just trying to figure that one out. All right.
Yeah.
How does Eden align itself with the problem? So there is one and probably just golden way of how we could contribute to the Filecoin with bringing more talent onto their network, and it's basically through Eden, through onboarding new members. And then DAOs and the communities, they are people, and if people are confused and they don't know what to do, where to go, and what are the opportunities there, they just, they don't stick around. So it's not only the problem of onboarding new talent, but also retaining existing talent. And for me, even right now, the big problem is that when I get on the new community, I have no idea what's going on there. It's just a Discord server, a bunch of code names, and then, you have to go to Notions and Airtables and talk to people to figure out what's going on. So the main value that Eden can bring to Filecoin is to create for them to use our platform. And our platform is basically when you onboard yourself and you share the information about yourself, about your skills, about your interests, your background. And then on the project side, it's just everything about the projects, the champions, the timelines, if they're hiring, and then just connect the two. And that will big time help Filecoin with the onboarding new talent and the retention, hopefully. So that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah, I mean, this is a match made in heaven. Filecoin needs to attract and retain contributors, and that's exactly what Eden is positioning to do. So great match here. Clear value alignment on the problem statement as well as the solution statement. So looking at your application for Filecoin's Microgrant, so you share this as a Google Doc. Some obvious room for improvement here is just leading with that problem statement. So on Filecoin's website, they stated the problem that they're trying to solve. You just mirror that, just repeat it back to them. Filecoin, like many other Web3 ecosystems, needs more contributors. Like, this is just coming off the top of my head. You can do this in a more eloquent way, but that's how I would always start. Even though, it's sort of a trap here. What is your project is the question. I highly recommend framing it as problem, solution, team, even when they've got something that might be misleading, like this prompt. It's not exactly what they're looking for. They really want to know, how can you solve our problem? They don't just want to know, what is your project?
I like it.
So then follow with a generalized solution statement, which you have some like solution-y language in here. But because it goes straight to Eden, we're not seeing like the logical flow of Filecoin's problem, potential solution to attract and retain talent and contributors who are like so happy to be here because of how awesome their interactions are. And then Eden comes third. So again, like, they kind of like misled you here with the prompt, but you want to see right through that and understand that really what they're asking is, how can you solve our problem? What solution are you bringing? Why should we give you money to implement this solution?
And I really, really like that you brought up this application out of the ones that I sent you, because Filecoin was one of the first grant applications we've ever done. It was in August, so 3 months ago. And it just, obviously, spoiler alert, we did not get Filecoin Microgrant. And there was a couple of reasons for that. I'll tell you later why. But I think this is just an amazing opportunity for us to look at how of the things that we can improve and like how to grow, and how our application changed even right now, of like the latest one that we're submitting right now. And it's just beautiful example for the Filecoin grant. And thank you for bringing up those problems. That's great help.
Sweet. No, thank you for being receptive to feedback. And for, putting yourself out there to workshop this with us. Like, this is why I call it like an art.
Definitely.
It's challenging. It's not obvious. And it takes a lot of practice. So I'm giving you the formula, but how you present it will, how you present Eden, like following this formula, is much more of an art than a science. And takes practice. And, now that Victor and I are up and running as the fundraising operators, like we'd love to help you refine grant proposals for the next program you're applying to. So we have a little bit of time left. Milo, would you like to kind of live here?
Yeah.
Maybe brainstorm what these statements could be?
Absolutely. No, that's a great example. See the problem that you see, and lost you.
Sorry, I want to actually be able to write into this.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we see the problem that you see. So we can start with DAOs and Web3 communities are overwhelming, and it's hard to find the positive way to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking, so just thinking right now, no need to write it down. So we're looking to learn, we're looking to contribute, and we're looking to earn. And this is like our main three things that are combined into contributing. So what is the problem here is that when you get into the new community, you don't really know where to go and where to find that. So the problem statement, people are looking to contribute and they don't know where to find it.
Yeah. I guess people don't know where to go.
And yeah.
To learn, earn,
and grow. Yeah. And another one.
They leave.
And they leave. So it's problem of retention of talent. And another thing we can add here is that you will not just be joining any projects around. So you have to do your own research on what is a suitable option for you. And obviously, you will not be just sitting around reading through the threads and trying to find out what the project is. So referrals would really help. Like when somebody is referring that this project is good. So that's what Eden is doing. And that's what we're working on. This literally current iteration is to be able to refer the projects, stake on the projects, and just give them some credibility.
Mm-hmm.
So viable solution for this problem. Yeah. So it's going to be referring the project. It's going to be giving the clear, uniform outline of all possible projects that are available right now. So a clear, uniform outline of the project.
Mm-hmm.
And then another problem that we'll face when we see those projects, we don't really know where to go. So one way is to apply through the platform. And a second way is to reach out to relevant people who can give us more insights into that project and who can share with us, relevant information about it. So mostly like core team or a champion of that project, which is also available on Eden.
Cool. So I think that there's just like my immediate reaction is that you're presenting kind of multiple solution statements here.
Mm-hmm.
They're like referrals are a solution.
Yeah.
Having a platform is a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Having connections to people is a solution. And so it's great to have all this ammo. It's great to have all these resources that you can plug into a grant application. But I do think like when you're applying to one particular grant, you probably want to try to isolate like one problem, match one solution to that problem, and then get to the team statement.
I like it. In this case, I mean, I share them as three separate things, but that's basically what we have on the platform. So once the projects are launched on the platform, they get access to, they showcase the people, so you get access to them, and they do show the referral, so you still get access to those. But definitely a great point. So we can not post them as separate things, but mainly as you get access to the platform, what comes with it. So that's a good one. The team to solve the problem, and I'm going to actually use the statement that you came up with, Camp, and then just flexing the DD members and that we're coming from DD, and majority of our contributors are from DD, so that would be a big thing. And then what we always do in our applications, just we show relevancy. So if the grant is technical, we're also going to be showcasing Blue Panda and Impact Billy, both of whom have built their AI companies before, successful ones who worked on it, who have PhD. And if they are less technical and more creative, we'll be showcasing different team members. So we're basically leveraging certain team members in a certain application. And I think it's just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say, like, your master grant application, just having different ways to describe your team or maybe your team members. And I definitely saw this in like the Ocean grant application, that you have a list of like all your core contributors and the value that they bring. So, you know, there's probably a place further down in the application where you do want to like list out people and kind of their 140 character resume. But like in this intro, like to form your narrative, what you're saying is right. Like just at a high level, like just make a connection to some strength of your team. So if you're applying to an AI grant, talk about you have, you know, software engineers and someone that has a PhD in artificial intelligence. If you're applying to a grant program at a social DAO, talk about, you know, how you were born in a social DAO and, you know, the number of, like, maybe the size of your team and the creativity that your team brings. So yeah, you're right about adapting it. That's key. But on your master grant application, like you can have 12 different ways of describing your team and just plug it in the most relevant way.
Yeah. One thing that we also did, and I think it's relevant for others who might be applying, if these grants allow you to upload an image, Impact Billy, he created one slide where there's just the PFPs and the role of all the members, because obviously it's overwhelming to put 30 members. That's in Eden, there's 30 members. It's really overwhelming to put all of them on the spotlight. So I think it's a great solution as well.
Yeah, just like plug in most relevant thing.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Milo. This is like, you know, we just brainstormed this on the fly. Of course, there's a lot of refinement that could be made here. But thank you so much for workshopping this with me. And I'm sure it's valuable for everyone else here too, just to hear you think through this and kind of go back and forth with me on the prompts. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us as Eden and as myself.
Let's work together on your next grant application.
Absolutely. I'm submitting it today.
All right, cool. Well, then the one after that, if you're submitting one today, next time you write one, let us know.
Right.
Can help.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck.
Cool. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Okay, so we're wrapping this up. We've only got a minute left. Just sharing one more pro tip before we go. You want to make a connection to the funder before you apply. Victor and I, Wickus and I, like, we're doing the groundwork here. We're meeting as many funders as we can. We've met about 20 so far. In 2 minutes, we have a meeting with another one. So hit us up. If you see a grant program that's on our list of friendly funders, please hit us up. We'll make a connection for you. We'll help you kind of get in the door, get your foot in the door. And then your work can speak for itself. But often the hardest thing is just being visible to the funder. They might get 100 applications a week. And if you have a personal connection there, they'll see your application, whereas otherwise they might not. So please lean on us, not only for making connections, but also for refining your grant proposals. We want to help. We have office hours on Mondays and Fridays at 2 p.m. UTC in Voice Chat 1. You can also hit us up in the Fundraising Operators channel, or DM us or send us an email. We're here to help you make connections. We're here to help you write compelling grant proposals. Please take us up on this. We want to help. Thank you all for joining today. It's been fun. Thanks again, Kemp and Milo, for sharing your grant proposals, workshopping with me today. All right, that's a wrap. Talk to y'all later. Goodbye.